You with me? Ladies and gentlemen, our representative in the oldest elected representative body in the world, Delegate Rob Bell.
Can you move over? This guy's in front of me.
It is worth repeating how amazing it is to have this many right-minded patriots in the center of the city of Charlottesville. This is just amazing. Big round of applause. So I'm here to introduce a good friend of mine, but I want to start by saying I've spent the day at parades. There was a parade in Scottsville, followed by a parade in Earlysville. There's a parade tomorrow in Free Union. And what these are is these are parades of Americans just like you celebrating the 4th of July, celebrating our Independence Day. And it's worth remembering back because it's been so long, and we have those fancy paintings now, about just how radical things were on the 4th of July in Pennsylvania back in 1776. Yet a group of people, there are 56, just like you, who are concerned about their country, and they said, we are going to do something about it. We're not just going to talk, but we are going to contemplate radical action. It is radical, right-wing, somebody said, what they agreed to do. And all of us know the first few words of the Declaration of Independence, but I've actually gone back and looked at the list. I want to share a couple with you because I think it's amazing how appropriate they still are. These are the list of grievances they listed in the Declaration itself of why we needed a new Declaration of Independence. And a long list of things that they said the king had done. But they said, he has judges dependent on his will alone. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent forms of officers to harass and eat out their sustenance. Yeah, Patrick Henry could really write. He's combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and given his consent to their act of pretended legislation, and he has imposed taxes upon us without our consent. Now, some of have told you about their efforts to bring their concerns to their elected officials, but that happened back in 1776 too. They said, in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only with repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, some things are just the same as they were in 1776, are they not? Yes. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who's going to help fix that. Now, I have had the pleasure of knowing Ken Cuccinelli 6 years? 6 years. 7 years. Feels like forever. And we had the great pleasure of getting to know each other on a bill that might matter to you all. You might recall there was a Supreme Court decision a few years ago called the Kelo decision. And what they said was the Supreme Court said, you know, it's hard to figure out when a government should be able to take your property, so we're just not going to try anymore. We're just going to say they can take your property for a good reason, a bad reason, or no reason at all. They can take it and give it to a private corporation. If they want your house and want to give it to a 7-Eleven, they can. And that's what the Supreme Court did. Now, at the end of that decision, as a footnote, they said, oh, by the way, if you silly state legislatures want to give some protections, I guess you can. We don't expect you to, but I guess you can. And so what happened was the very next year, Senator Cuccinelli got involved with that. Now, the first year, we couldn't get it done. We didn't have the votes, and we fought and we fought. But the second year, he and I did a bill. I did it for the House, he did it for the Senate. And there was a group called the Coalition. And he'll remember there was it was 60 different groups, but each group represented dozens and dozens of members. And they were the ones opposed to this bill. They said, oh, it'll be too hard to make government work if government can't take your property. It just won't work well. It'll take too long. You know, property rights are something that was good back in the day, but seriously, we're a modern country. We need to be able to take property quickly. And those 60 members of the coalition fought and fought and fought, and we had late-night meetings, and I was in his office once, and we had to negotiate and find ways to get around their objections. But with his hard work, that is now the law of Virginia. I want a round of applause for Ken Cuccinelli. Ladies and gentlemen, there's nobody who's going to fight harder for the rights of Virginia to choose its own destiny. There's nobody who is a more principled man than my friend Ken Cuccinelli. Let's have a round of applause for Ken.
Thank you, Rob.